joining us right now for an all-out preview of the third and final window of the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers is basketball legend and Sports Desk Basketball Analyst, the one and only point laureate. He's back with us, Coach Ronnie Magsanoc. Coach, welcome to the new Sports Desk. Magandang umaga sa'yo.
Thank you, Dre. Thank you. Nice to see you again. Thank you.
Nice to see you again as well, Coach Ronnie. Let's get to it. Tab Baldwin, back as Gilas head coach. Big news. How does this change the game for the Gilas Pilipinas? Tingin mo ba, Coach, he is the better fit considering karamihan nga na nasa pool na ito ay mga bata din ni Coach Tab from Ateneo?
I think the main perspective that we have to lay down is si Coach Tab Baldwin talaga ang program director ng Gilas 5-on-5 basketball up to the World Cup of 2023. Meaning, this is the roadmap that he has drawn for the national team from 2020 to 2023. It just so happened na natamaan tayo ng pandemic at tumuloy-tuloy for 2021. But the landscape he has been able to draw up, and that included having Coach Mark Dickel for the first window and Coach Jongyi Chico for the second window. And right now, he has stepped forward to assume the leadership role eventually para dito sa team ng Gilas national team.
Of course, on our screens, we're looking at Coach Tab Baldwin's accolades, and Coach Tab Baldwin is respected in the world of basketball. Let's talk about Coach Tab's style some more. Dissect natin, Coach. What should the fans expect heading into this third window when in terms of style of coaching ni Tab Baldwin?
What we have seen so far from Coach Tab Baldwin are based from the teams that he has handled here in Manila from 2015 up to such time that he won the second title for Ateneo in the UAP. But remember, aside from the fact that he has handled Ateneo in the last two championships and the national team starting 2015, aside from the very high and lofty finishes in the Jones Cup for the Philippine national team, balikan lang natin kung saan nanggaling si Coach Tab Baldwin. Illustrious coaching career, handled Malaysia in 1996, also coached New Zealand and helped get New Zealand to lofty heights likewise in the world stage. And then he was also tasked to mentor the Lebanon national team and also the Jordan national team before finding his way to the country. What is his style? Defensively, he is always on point. Offensively, master of misdirection, but more than that, he is a disciplinarian. He is a coach who has disciplined direction and a master of misdirection, I would say. He has been exposed to many battles in the world stage, and that I think gives him the logical assignment of pushing our basketball program moving forward.
Well, you did say master of misdirection twice. I think nabanggit mo yon. And like I mentioned earlier, wala pang final roster tong Gilas. But there are guys who will be missing in the third window. Sure na tayo mamimiss nila. 3 guys na makakatulong sana, magiging leader sila dito. Medyo na rin, kumbaga veterans of this team, of this young team. Dave Ildefonso, Matt Nieto, at si Ray Suerte pa. Coach, who do you think will have to step up and take on the role of these guys? Dahil malaki, crucial yung tatlong mawawala sa atin.
Oo. There has always been a pool that has been built by Coach Tab Baldwin, I believe since the start of the year. And initially, there were even professional players in the fold until such time na all-cadet lineup na yung natira sa national pool. Malaking kawalan, of course, si Matt Nieto, si Ray Suerte, at si Sean Ildefonso. But that's the reason why you build a pool. And JD Tongkab has always been an integral part in the rotation of Coach Tab Baldwin as a big guard who is a lockdown defender against the opposition. And then comes in RJ Abarientos and SJ Bilangel. RJ Abarientos.
Yes, Coach. RJ Abarientos
has been, I think, on top of the radar of a lot of coaches in the Philippines simply because of the potential that he has, Barrientos, but the kind of game that he has that fits the international kind of play. And then SJ Belangel also fits the template of Coach Tab Baldwin. Remember that Coach Tab has put a lot of premium not only on size and range, but he has also made sure that he has the size to match up against the other national teams. And these three perhaps will man the fort.
Well, we're trying.
For
Okay.
injuries along the way in preparation for the FIBA third window.
Sorry, Coach. Medyo nag-break lang yung line, but it's fine. We can still hear you. Ito, Coach, nabanggit ko yung tatlong mawawala nga, si Matt Nieto, David Defonso, Ray Suerte. But one guy who may, we're praying, he may be a shoo-in for the final roster is the newly naturalized Ange Kwame. Now, what can Ange Kwame bring to this team besides, of course, his height? Dahil alam natin, kakailangan na natin siya. Against Korea, who has Ricardo Ratliff, 6'8", and against Indonesia, who has Lester Prosper, who's 6'10".
I guess we are looking at the future of Philippine basketball. We talk about not just Ange Kwame, but the rest of the national pool. With Ange Kwame, he fills in the spot that has been left by Marcus Dautit, one, number two, Andre Blatch. And remember that the reason why we are having a legitimate center as a naturalized player is because that has always been a problem area for our country, simply because we may have the skills, we may have the quickness, but yung size, that is something that we have been longing to fill up and plug in. Kaya yung dalawang nauna nating naturalized players are big men. Tulad ng binanggit natin kanina, si Marcus Dautit at si Andre Blatch. With Ange Kwame comes a big man who can sprint down.
Coach Ronnie. Well, we'll try to get Coach Ronnie back
Down
there.
Ateneo to a silver medal finish when they played in the Jones Cup a few years back. And nandito na si Ange Kwame in the fold of Ateneo, meaning anytime that you need him, he's already at home. Whereas before, we had to wait for some time for Marcus Dautit and Andre Blatch to plane in. Nandito na siya. Understanding the system of Coach Tab Baldwin, and also reinforcing the fact of the ball. He can also take and make shots from the long range. Dahil parte yan ng offensive strategy ni Coach Tab Baldwin, wherein the perimeter players and even the big men are scoring threats from the outside. But defensively, this I think is where Ange Kwame fits to a T. Yung philosophy ni Coach Tab Baldwin. A rim protector, a tireless worker, and a very sound teammate. No? Alam mo na chemistry player din. So the adjustment factor, natanggal mo na, at katulad ng binanggit ko kanina, nandito na siya. Anytime kailangan mo siya,
ready na
for any particular competition on the international or for the Asian or the world stage, nandito na siya. Hindi mo na hahanapin, hindi mo na antayin, ready to tap his services anytime.
Tama yun. And bata nga ni Coach Tab Baldwin, talagang nakikinig kay Coach. Binanggit mo din yung height, di ba? Of course, isa pang inaabangan na player, Filipino basketball sensation Kai Sotto. And after the break, Coach Ronnie and I will talk about what Kai Sotto can bring to Gilas, Pilipinas in the FIBA Asia Cup Qualifiers. But for Sportsdesk, only here on CNN Philippines, we still have with us Sports Desk Basketball Analyst, one and only point Laureat, Coach Ronnie Magsanoc. Coach Ronnie, sabi ng SBP na tinitingnan pa nila if Kai Sotto is fit enough to play for Gilas Pilipinas in the third window. And if he does make it to the roster, scheduling and then sa system, what does the 7'4", now 7'4" basketball sensation Kai Sotto bring besides, of course, the obvious height?
Alam mo, si Kai, nasundan ko rin yung karera ni Kai sa UAP. Sobra ang madadala ni Kai talaga para sa ating Gilas national team. The only hurdle right now is I think he just cleared the quarantine. 14-day quarantine to dahil galing sa travel abroad. But looking down the road, imagine what a Kai Sotto and Ange Kwame combination can do for your front line.
Correct.
Offensively, is a scoring threat from the outside and even on the blocks. And then we talk about defense. Imagine mo, may dalawang human erasers ka na magkasama, kayang mag-fill sa transition lanes, and hopefully will be able to complement one another in terms of the system ni Coach Tab Baldwin. But I think the most important part of Kai Sotto being on board the Gilas national program is that he has committed to being a part of the national team. Remember that the investment is not just for the FIBA window. Katulad ng binanggit natin kanina, it's for the World Cup of 2023. Aside from the OQT in Belgrade, Serbia, on June 29. Tandaan natin, tahi-tahi na yan. And Kai has committed to be a part of the program. And that, I think, is the basic foundation kung ano yung relevance at significance ng Kai Sotto. Perhaps, sa ngayon, dahil hindi pa nga siya nakaka-ensayo ng buo para sa team ni Coach Tab Baldwin, hindi natin malalaman kung malaline up siya, makakalaro siya ng extensive minutes. Pero ang alam natin, malaki ang madadala ni Kai Sotto in the next decade para sa national team ng Pilipinas. And I think that gives us more hope looking down the runway for the Philippine national team, at least in the next 10 years.
Nabanggit mo nga, mga bata pa to, tinitingnan din natin yung long term, yung World Cup. 23 years old pa lang si Kwame, 19 naman tong si Kai Sotto.
Yeah.
But both, nabanggit ko nga kanina, Coach, both South Korea and Indonesia have foreign reinforcements of their own. Two former PBA imports, in fact, si Ricardo Ratliff nga na 6'8", para sa South Korea, si Lester Prosper naman, 6'10", para sa Indonesia. How will Kai Sotto and Ange Kwame, how do they stack up against these two imports of or naturalized players of Korea and Indonesia?
Katulad nung pinag-usapan natin kanina, Andre, like us, these countries invested in reinforcements or naturalized players who are in the center position. Kasi nga, yung height ang kadalasang kakulangan pagdating sa Asia at Southeast Asia. Of course, maliban sa China, kasi billion naman ang pinagpipilian doon. How do we match up against them? I think Kai Sotto and Ange Kwame will be able to match up well against Lester Prosper and of course si Ricardo Ratliff, who has been a familiar sight to basketball enthusiasts in the region and in Asia, of course. Magandang pagkakataon para makita natin how they compete against each other.
Yeah.
Remember that this is the first of many matchups that we will see among these players that you mentioned, Prosper, Ratliff. At ang short-term look dito, yung mga papasok na team sa FIBA Asia Cup will square off in this continental tournament in August once again in Jakarta, Indonesia. And these are possible matchups that you want to handle, that you want to win eventually, because these are going to be the same faces that you will play with at least in the next few years. Dahil ito na yung mga naturalized players that will hold the fort for Indonesia and South Korea. And we are hopeful and we are optimistic that Ange Kwame and Kai Sotto will be there to be able to hold fort and stand tall for our Philippine national team.
Okay, Coach, before we take a closer look into the upcoming games of Gilas Pilipinas, which is against Korea and Indonesia, first let's find out the answer to our quiz question of the day. Again, the question was, which country holds the record for having the most championships in the FIBA Asia Cup? Coach Ronnie, may hula ka ba dito?
Parang China.
Parang China ba? Is that your final answer, Coach Ronnie Magsanoc?
I think so.
Well, the correct answer is talagang di magkakamali ang Ronnie Magsanoc. China with 16 FIBA Asia Cup titles. Grabe. Of course, isa sa matitinding rivals ng Pilipinas yan pagdating sa FIBA Asia. And speaking of the country's rivals, Coach, nabanggit nga natin na we're facing South Korea, hindi lang once, but twice. And then Indonesia. As we take a look at the schedule here, makita natin, the game against Korea will take place, Coach Ronnie, sa June 16th. Ayan, sa ating screens. And 20th. Tapos yung Indonesia naman on June 18th. Let's talk about Korea first, Coach Ronnie. We all know na, di ba, yung Korean curse na tinatawag natin. What should we know about Korea this time around, and what can our young Gilas squad do to make sure to break this curse, not just once, but twice in this third window?
I think, Andre, looking back at the Gilas national program, I think 7 or 8 years ago, the curse has already been broken. Whereas before, hindi natin sila talaga natatalo halos. Ngayon, tinatalo na rin natin sila kahit paano. And right now, we have the home court, although wala nga lang live audience. Pero baptism of fire. We have also to temper our expectations, but at the same time, understand that our all-cadet national team are also trying to immerse themselves, no? Because some will have their baptism of fire. Ilan dyan, katulad nila RJ Abariento. So yung mga iba, veterano na. This is a good gauge of where we are right now. Because looking down the road, kailangan meron kang base eh. Meron kang panggagalingan. And then from there, you build on. Yes, there was enough time to prepare. Pero pagdating sa actual competition, parang ngayon palang lalaban ng ating national team after several bubble trainings in Calamba. So magandang makita how will they play against a seasoned team who also went through a coaching change, by the way, prior to the FIBA third window. So lahat tayo makikita natin, lahat tayo maiintindihan natin. But more than that, yung mga players natin, mararamdaman nila how to compete against seasoned and veteran campaigners who have played in the world stage, no? At are almost focused on serving the national team for flag and country dito nga sa South Korea. At magandang makita paano mababantayan ni JD Tungkab yung mga Gunners ng South Korea.
Yes.
Paano magbabanggaan si Ange Kwame at si Ricardo Ratcliffe, 'di ba? All those we will have to watch at least twice, no? Dito sa FIBA third window, and then maintindihan natin kung nasaan na, ano yung patutunguhan, at higit sa lahat, makikita natin yung kakayahan, and all this they will learn. They will learn quickly because they will be there, at least, no? Most of them will be from this FIBA third window up to the World Cup of 2023.
Then June 18, Indonesia. We've seen several times, not just a FIBA Asia, Coach Ronnie, but in regional meets such as the SEA Games. And the Philippines has pretty much dominated and owned Indonesia in these events. Do you think it will be the same this time around? Or baka, it will be a challenge at mas mahihirapan tayo against a also good Indonesia squad?
The last time we played Indonesia, we beat them by 30 last Feb 23. But in this team, I believe we had 7 professional players in the fold plus 5 cadets. So without Lester Prosper, syempre pag may Lester Prosper, mas mabigat ang kalaban kasi may reinforcement at may talagang matangkad. But in terms of being able to handle them, naniniwala naman ako na pag Indonesia, kaya. Pag Indonesia, kayang ilusot. At isang panalo lamang ang hinahanap ng ating Philippine national team para makatawid formally doon sa tournament phase sa Jakarta, na kung saan ang Indonesia mag-host pagdating ng August of this year. And I believe that man for man, we can compete against this squad, and that eventually we will come out on top against Indonesia.
Well, Coach, always a pleasure talking to you. Hope you're staying safe. Maraming salamat. We'll speak to you again soon. Nice to have you back on Sports Desk. Again, Point Laureate and basketball legend Coach Ronnie Magsanoc. From